Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I literally flew in from Tokyo via Turkey a few hours ago. So I don't know where you guys came from. Could you show me hands? Here, locally, Europe, America, Asia. Lovely, very international audience. So I had the opportunity to listen to a number of speakers, and I do feel very inspired. And what I'd like to do as one of the final speakers at the end of the day is try and wrap things together as much as possible. So let me start a little bit with myself. So my name's Helen Tung, and I call myself a NewSpace Legal Futurist. It's a journey more than anything else. You see some mountains here. Can anyone guess where it's from? Some people do skiing. Well, it's Geneva. It's the Swiss Alps. And why do I have an image there? Well, early in the year, the UN held two meetings, particularly on AI and the application in warfare, rule of law. What is the international humanitarian law going to say about the use of AI? What's interesting, I was sitting in the room as one of the experts, legal experts, and I sat there and there were state representatives, there were NGOs, no killer robots, and I was like, wait a second, someone is missing here. And they're the businesses, and they're the coders, and they are you. And so that's why when we talk about AI and robotics and all that, I put on my law and policy hat and I say, everyone is important because everyone has a say. So to give you a better idea of what I'm currently doing, so I'm a Emergent tech advisor. I've done work for UNESCO on the latest emerging technologies, and currently I'm in Tokyo because I'm looking at EU, Japan, new space startups. And so I'll be using space as my theme, so I would love to talk to you all afterwards as well. And if you have any questions, just say hi. So a bit of background about myself. I call myself an international citizen. I was born in Australia, went to Hong Kong, Canada, UK for studying, did a few Erasmus programs, went to the Netherlands. European comparative law is my background. I went to Singularity University. It was raised in one of the speakers' talks. And I studied everything about as much as possible from Peter Diamandis, and learning what singularity may mean for us entrepreneurs. I co-founded a satellite propulsion startup. That did not work out. And I love, someone said, fail fast. Yes, I did that. And then I went to International Space University to learn everything about engineering and sciences and the cosmology of the world. And it was interesting because when you deep dive into a subject that you are totally unfamiliar with, you do feel a bit vulnerable. But hey, that's why we're all here to learn. So what I love to do is I work with entrepreneurs. And when I say that, I don't mean superficially. I really get to know you, and I try to do one of two things. I try to help you make a better decision. Not the best decision, not the right decision, but a better decision for what you do, what you're about, and your values. For the last few speakers, everyone talked about values. Well, we're international, we're from different countries, we have different values. I'm not judging, but it's just that there are certain things that we value more in different respects. So that's one thing I do. And the second thing is, I try to really get at the heart of what we're really about. So I'll give you a good example. I was in Bosnia-Herzegovina training entrepreneurs. I have sessions one-on-one, I do pitch sessions, and I help them out. And one guy came in and I said, tell me, what are you passionate about? By the way, I should put a caveat. He was trained in engineering, he got a scholarship, and his destiny is to become this super engineer. He goes, actually, I like cooking. Oh, cooking. Okay, so tell me a bit more about it. What do you like to cook? Well, he goes, you see, I've been doing some homework, and I really would love to go to Croatia and actually work at this one-star Michelin restaurant this summer. I said, does anyone else in this room or hall or your family know that you're passionate about cooking? He goes, no. I listened a little bit more, and our 1-hour session was coming to an end, and I said to him, look, you're about to make either the best decision or the worst decision in your life. You are going to take a path where your parents and your friends and the university that you went to said you should become an engineer. Or you follow your heart and you become that cook that you've always dreamed of. And there's something else I shared with him. You like technology, don't you? Well, guess what? Why don't you combine cooking and emergent technology? I mentioned 3D printing, I measured, like bio stuff, and he got interested. So that's what I do. I try to, let's say, dig a little deeper and get entrepreneurs to be a little bit more honest with themselves. So here are a list of questions, which is sort of big and fanciful, but you can take your time and consider it. What kind of futures do you envisage? What are your values? What is your strategy to go about it? And I've used a 2060 year mark, to sort of figure out, okay, what do I want to be or at that age or stage? So something's interesting. I have a really good friend. Her mother passed away about a year ago. And she's like, Helen, do you know what? I think if my mum exercised more, she would have lived longer. I said, yeah, okay. She goes, I am going to aim for 100. What about you? Why not? Let's aim for 100. Why not aim for forever? We talk about technology. We talk about how we're living longer compared to the medieval periods. We're talking about medicines, regenerative medicines, right? Healing, all that. So it's funny once you put a goal like that in your life. Some people aim to become a millionaire. Some people aim to get a Ferrari by 30. I'm aiming for 100. And I can tell you right now, the way you think, the way you behave, of course you can't get angry. That blood pressure is going to go up the roof, right? You can't get stressed because you're doing harmful things to yourself. And you're not going to eat that extra piece of whatever because you know you're going to have to burn that off. So it's really interesting. What kind of goals are you setting for yourself? And I'm not speaking specifically about AI robotics. I'm talking about you as an individual, as an entrepreneur. So this is where I love to talk about Elon Musk. He is such an inspiring person. Why the hell did he send a car to space? Do you think it's really going to be driven there? What is the message? Is he a visionary? Well, I would say he is. Are you a visionary? And what is the potential when you believe in something like that can happen? So my theory is he did that to paint or put that seed in your mind that is possible. Now let's talk about the other big news, the millionaire, the billionaire that signed a deal with SpaceX to take 7 to 8 artists to space. What he achieved, I would say, is what some people who've worked in space for years and years cannot. He touched the minds, hearts and minds of the imagination of the general public. And that is what I call an amazing entrepreneur. So thinking ahead, I would like to ask you, what role will you play in the futures? And I would like to show a video on the Moon Village Association, an NGO which I'm part of. So can we please have the video, please? Thanks for that. So that's the Moon Village Association, and as mentioned before, I am a member of it as a law and policy person. But how I got involved is really, well, if you think about it, the president and vice president are former ESA and NASA guys. Very simply, if they spent 50 years of their time working on this, going back to the moon, and it hasn't happened, they pretty much probably figured out we can't do it by ourselves, i.e. the scientists, and we need everyone else involved. And that's how I sort of got into the picture. I didn't quite mention when I was working at Singularity University, I co-founded a satellite propulsion startup, I said before, didn't work out. We won first prize, Luxembourg prize, 400,000 euros. But my co-founder said, Helen, we can't work together. It was one of the most disappointing things that you could say happened to me. In the past, when I worked as a litigation lawyer, I've helped businesses surviving and also thriving through bankruptcy. So what I then realized is, for a start, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's not a personal thing. It's just that when you try it and you realize you're better off as a scientist on a desk, fine. But on the other hand, if we want to go to space, as I just showed you, we need a lot more manpower. We need a lot more businesses and ideas out there. So what I did was I launched a NewSpace 2060 International Moon Pitch competition back in May at NewSpace 50 at the United Nations. Little did I know that I would get over 30 entries, 20 judges, lots of sponsors, including architectural prizes, blockchain prizes, and basically it helped me connect with people that I would never imagine. I got invited to announce the winners at the National Space Society, in which I'm sure many of you know Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks were board members. So, my second mission, now that I'm in Japan and talking about EU-Japan new space collaboration, is to try and get the entrepreneurs, the people that think space is not for me, to say, yeah, it is for me, and I cannot be involved. And so I'm going to launch a poetry competition, so if any of you guys are interested, talk to me afterwards. What do you guys see up here? You see some satellites, technology. Well, it's an interesting thing to say, because, you know, us entrepreneurs, we see opportunities when people see none. And I would say this, actually for me, represents small sat constellations, the future of spaceflight, downstream applications, data, connectivity, and future responsibility. How many of you know of SpaceX and OneWeb's plans to have thousands of satellite constellations, small sat constellations? Okay, now you do. And the idea of having thousands of these small sat constellations evolving around the world to give us services on our mobile phone, on our cars for unmanned systems, is a wonderful thing, but at the same time, think of space debris, right? We talk about, you know, environmental concerns and issues on Earth, but in space, there are lots of problems like that as well. Now, this is an image that I wanted to just share with you. My background is actually in maritime. I used to work with the seafarers and the ships and all that, and actually piracy was my expertise. Yes, Pirates of the Caribbean's pirates. And it was a fascinating thing. I was working in business, but I thought, you know, let me look at this. And it got me involved in this, technology. How can technology solve a real human problem? And by the way, it wasn't the states, it wasn't the businesses, it was an entrepreneur that said, Helen, I want to track something. I want to track fresh apples. What can I track? I said, why don't you look at piracy? Huge business, huge problem. And the funny thing was, he came up with a solution that surprised me. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe an entrepreneur can really hack this. And I think this is the wonderful thing about talking about entrepreneurship and businesses. Now, this is just some of the technology and GNSS, which is going to be really important in space. Technical requirements, but data. So this is a good one. Someone spoke about partnerships, and as we all know, the GDPR. That is a huge one. And I think as businesses, that's something you've got to be really, really sure and be aware of. And there are a lot of variables and things that go on that I think truly you don't need to be worried about, but I think just being aware of and the impact of data. And of course, I put in some of the fines just to make sure, and some potential scenarios. But again, hire a good lawyer and you'll be okay. Now, what I usually like to do in seminars like these is to do something like a meditation. And it's important because I think mindfulness is more and more relevant to our work and what we do. If you paid attention from the very morning to the afternoon, it's a lot of brain cells being used. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to spend about 5 minutes or so to do a mindfulness meditation with you. I would tell you what impact it had on a friend of mine, but I'll share that with you afterwards. So if it's okay with you guys, just relax, put your books down, laptops, phones. Gently close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Okay, ready? 1, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. 3rd time, breathe in and breathe out. Now for the next following breaths, I'd invite you to breathe through your heart. And as you breathe through your heart, I want you to just observe what colors you see. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. I want you to be present. Present in this room with these amazing people around you. The energy. And now I'd like to invite you to think of one emotion. It may be bugging you a little, it may have bugged you a long time, but just this one emotion. And as you breathe in, I want you to breathe it in through your body. See it channeling through your head, neck, shoulders, hips, legs, all the way down through your body. And go down, down, down to the core of the earth. Touch the core of the earth. And let it come back up. Up, up, up. Through your legs, hips, stomach, shoulder, neck, head. And out. Out from your head. And when it happens, say to yourself, the universe is big enough to absorb this. The universe is big enough to absorb this. Just want to give you a few more moments just to do that exercise. And as you do that exercise, just notice where you are. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel you're on a hilltop, on the sky? Just being present. And notice your breath. Does it feel heavy? Does it feel shallow? Does it feel comfortable? And with every breath that comes out, imagine whatever problem you've got gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's okay, you can still keep your eyes closed, but I'd like to share my story with you. A few years ago, I had a really good friend that I studied with in Hong Kong. She withdrew from society. Life was just getting too hard. Pressure from work, relationships, everyone doing these amazing things. Sometimes I don't even know if Facebook is really giving us real added value. When people are getting depressed, they see all these amazing lives that other people have. But anyway, I was in Hong Kong visiting for a research fellowship, and I said, hey, let's go out. All my friends came out except for her. I had one more day in Hong Kong, and they said, Helen, we can't get in touch with her, we don't know what's happening to her. I said, okay, let me give it another try. So I got in touch with her, and I said, come on, I've got a spare bed here if you want to stay over, we can talk all night, we can have coffee, whatever you like. So, very last minute in the afternoon, she said, Helen, I'd like to meet you. We went to a coffee shop, we had a long chat. Right? A long, long chat. What's wrong? What's wrong? I don't like my job. All my friends are getting married, got kids. Their lives are perfect, but mine? Okay. I listened, we talked, but I taught her that meditation I just taught you. Now, before you start expecting miracles, it takes practice. I taught her that meditation. Next morning, I hopped on my plane and off I go. Within 3 months, she quit her job, she found a new one that she really loved. And then afterwards, she met a boyfriend, and things were progressing quite quickly. In fact, she messaged me, Helen, it's moving too quick. I said, just relax and enjoy it. And within a year, I got a wedding invite. I was so thrilled. I went to her wedding, and her parents were like, thank you, Helen. I said, hey, I didn't do anything. She did all the hard work. Right? I call it rubbish dumping. If you're an entrepreneur, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes we overthink things. We're not a failure just because that customer didn't buy our good. Oh yes, and this order didn't work out, and yes, we have problems with the employees and the delivery and logistics, but hey, this is life. And if we're going to embrace the life of an entrepreneur with that entrepreneurial spirit, it's kind of what I call walking through shit. So let me get a raise of hands. Has anyone done the El Camino or heard of the El Camino? Santiago de Compostela, yes, very good, one person, okay, two person, lovely, okay. I would love for all of you to go through it. So I did it in the summer. You could say fate would have it. I was actually doing a Training the Trainers program. There were about 30 participants. And because I work with entrepreneurs, and as I said before, I work with them on a very deep level as a person, not just as a business, I have to go through a lot of things to process and understand myself in order to help others. But on that journey, some of them say it's for spiritual people, for a spiritual path. Some say it's for exercise, and others say, well, it's just for fun. It was a bit of everything for me, but the spiritual side was what really amazed me. You know, I used imagery to walk through the El Camino, 20 kilometers every day for 12 days. Imagery in terms of fire, water, wind, and I would walk past our station for 7 kilometers without even realizing or having any pain. And what is fascinating is that concept of mind over matter. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to suddenly get you all signed up for a triathlon and say it's okay, you're not going to hurt or have any muscle pain. But I think when we have challenges on an individual level, when we have blockages, we have moments where we do have our down moments, but it's difficult, you don't really share that with your investors or you share that with your peers. Meditation is like medicine for me. I have helped, in my own way, so many entrepreneurs to get real and to break down those barriers. And I say barriers because they are. Things or standards or impossible dreams which we give to ourselves. Now don't get me wrong, I have Einstein here, he's looking at us as we go through this. I'm not saying, I am actually saying go for it, go pursue your dreams, go and do the things that you really care about and love. But what is really show of strength and resilience is not the good times. It's not the times when you're going to win number one. It's not good times when you're going to be the best pitcher in the room, right? The really good times is when you had a huge problem, real shit to have to walk through and a hill to have to climb over, right? And survive. That is, for me, amazing. And those are the stories I feel in conferences like these need to be shared more often. Because we can learn more from each other, we will grow more as individuals and as colleagues and friends. And actually, I think that is true support and true courage. There are so many great speakers out there that talk about vulnerability, they talk about strength. And I personally think that real strength is being as human and as authentically possible. So if I go back to the first entrepreneur that I said who really wanted to be a chef, my personal views, I don't know whether he's made that choice. And you can have it all, as it were, but at the end of the day, nothing matters, and your own view or position matters the most. That is something I really appreciate when I work with entrepreneurs. Sometimes I also, for myself, there were questions. Someone said, well, how do you make a better decision? What is the right decision? Well, the answer is no one knows. And that's when contrary to a lot of speakers here, is we need to be flexible and open about it, right? We're all in this together. We're all trying to experiment where robotics and AI can take us and where it will lead us. But the honest answer is we don't know. And by not knowing, I think that's where when we're open and talk about, hey, look, I'm really scared what this is going to do and that's going to happen and this, that is far better than not talking about it. So I would, raise my toast to you all for actually embarking on this really ambitious field, which I personally think is one of the most exciting periods to be living in. But at the same time, talk to your peers. I mean, robotics is such an amazing place to actually meet new people and, engage in these discussions where you can share what problems you might be facing or the technology issues and work with people other than within your own peer. So my background is in law and policy, but I work with entrepreneurs of all shapes and sizes. So I'll be more than happy to talk to you all and, of course, enjoy the rest of the conference. Okay, thank you very much.